Welcome to part 2 of this presentation. In part 1, we examine Cunningham's identification of the first Buddhist site, Sarnath, and considered how his conclusions appear to have preceded the evidence itself. Rather than emerging from a neutral assessment of archaeological material, the evidential framework was progressively assembled over a period of 35 years, from 1835 to 1871, in support of an already established assumption. In this section, we will critically examine Cunningham's evidential base in greater detail, including issues of selective interpretation, evidential inconsistency, and possible fabrication. We will also consider the broader historical and colonial context that shaped the mapping and identification of Buddhist sites in India. We now take a step back to examine the development of the evidence base itself. The development of the evidential framework appears to unfold in distinct stages. First, in 1835, we see the introduction of the claim based on a physical observation of a large mound with a tower, along with the Chokhandi Mount, but without any clear link to the Buddha's first sermon. Next, in 1854, the claim is reinforced. In Bilsatops, the Chokhandi Mount is tentatively associated with the meeting between the Buddha and the five ascetics. By 1865, this interpretation gains institutional backing, appearing within the official reports of the Archaeological Survey of India. Finally, in 1871, the process reaches its culmination. What began as an observation and tentative association is presented as an established historical fact. This progression from observation to interpretation to institutional confirmation forms the basis for the critical review that follows. We now turn to Cunningham's findings to assess whether they were supported by authentic evidence. In 1835, he identified Saranganath, a Hindu site associated with Shiva, recording only a mound and tower with no link to Buddhist pilgrimage. The name Sarnath appears later in the 1860s ASI reports as a colonial standardization, still without any connection to the first sermon. By 1871, Cunningham stated that the stupa was called by the people Dhamek, using this to suggest the first Dhamma. What emerges is a gradual shift, uncertain observations becoming assertive historical claims with interpretation presented as evidence. In developing his interpretation, Cunningham introduced additional layers of fabricated evidence. He brought in the choker on the Mount, a site that held no particular significance in 1835, and gradually reinterpreted it. In Bilsatop's 1854, he tentatively linked it to the meeting between the Buddha and the five ascetics. By 1865, in the ASI reports, this interpretation was further strengthened through an association with Isipatana. Finally, in the 1871 ASI reports, more than 35 years after his initial visit, this tentative link was presented as an established fact. As before, we see a gradual process in which interpretation is progressively transformed into historical certainty. The spatial relationship between these sites presents a further problem. The meeting place of the Buddha and the five ascetics and the place of the first sermon would reasonably be expected to lie close to one another. However, the locations identified by Cunningham are separated by approximately 1 kilometer. Are we to assume that after meeting the five ascetics, the Buddha then walked such a distance before delivering the sermon? This spatial inconsistency raises serious doubt about the historical validity of these identifications. We now turn to a review of Cunningham's claim regarding Isipatana. According to the Aryaparayana Sutta, the Buddha traveled to Isipatana, not Saranganath. The term suggests an elevated place associated with sages, offering a vantage point from which the Buddha could be seen approaching. Yet, neither Damek nor Chokandi stands on elevated ground, and the landscape does not match this description. Moreover, there is no evidence that the name Isipatana was ever used for Sarnath in India in geographical, administrative, epigraphic, or cartographic records. No inscriptions from Sarnath bear this name. This suggests that the identification of Sarnath with Isipatana is not evidence based and may reflect a deliberate construction. In a sense, Cunningham did not simply recover a lost historical truth. He appears to have participated in constructing one. A site associated with the Hindu religious context came to be interpreted as the place of the first sermon. Names such as Sarnath and Damek played a role in this interpretative process. Similarly, Chokandi was gradually incorporated into the narrative. When considered alongside spatial and textual inconsistencies, these developments suggest a process of historical reconstruction rather than straightforward identification. Cunningham's erroneous identification of the first sermon site. Taken together, the evidence suggests that Sarnath as the site of the Buddha's first sermon was not established through verifiable historical continuity, but emerged through a gradual process of colonial interpretation, selective naming, and narrative construction. What began as uncertain observations and tentative associations was progressively transformed into institutionalized historical certainty. This raises broader questions regarding the methods, motivations, and historical conditions under which Buddhist sites in India came to be identified and reconstructed during the colonial period. We now turn to the historical background behind this process of manipulation. Before Ceylon came under British rule, the island had been home to several kingdoms across different centuries, including Anuradhapura, Polonnaruwa, Damadeniya, Kotte, Sitavaka, and finally the Kingdom of Kandy. In 1815, the British deposed Sri Vikrama Rajasingha, the last king of Kandy, bringing the Kandyan kingdom and with it the whole island of Ceylon under British rule. On the very day the British took control of the island, Venerable Variapola Sri Sumangala Thero symbolized resistance by trampling the British flag in Kandy. Resistance to British rule did not end in 1815. One of the most significant uprisings was the Uva Vellasa rebellion of 1817 to 1818, led by Keppetipula Disave. Another major rebellion followed in 1848, led by Francisco Fernando, also known as Purangappu. This concludes part 2 of the presentation. In this section, we critically examine Alexander Cunningham's erroneous identification of Sarnath as the site of the Buddha's first sermon and considered how this claim was not substantiated through reliable historical or archaeological evidence. Rather, the narrative appears to have been gradually constructed over several decades through assumptions, reinterpretations, selective naming, and institutional endorsement within the wider colonial project of reconstructing Buddhist history in India. We also considered the wider colonial environment in which these historical reconstructions emerge, including the political transformation of Ceylon under British rule and the resistance movements that followed. In part 3, we will turn to the plan of strategies and institutional processes that shape this broader historical project, including the appointment of the Colebrook-Cameron Commission, its recommendations, and the role played by Cunningham within the colonial framework that followed. The investigation continues.